All right, so we just finished the second night of debates for the Democratic presidential candidates. We had Bennet, Biden, Booker, Castro, de Blasio, Gabbard, Gillibrand, Harris, Inslee, and Andrew Yang. And this was, in my opinion, a disaster. This did not go as smoothly as yesterday. And the first night they covered a whole lot of issues, and they seemed to be able to focus on these issues in depth. Healthcare, immigration, college, tuition-free college, tariffs, trade deals, China, racism, and reparations. So much time was wasted in the beginning with healthcare. With Biden and Harris going back and forth, and Harris has some kind of 10-year plan, Biden has some kind of 2-year plan, and they're getting into the details, and nobody understands what their plans are, and they're criticizing each other's plans. You don't cover everybody. Oh, yes, I do. And the back and forth just went on forever. It just got frustrating. It just became, oh my gosh, move on to something else. Move on to somebody else. I got so sick of seeing Joe Biden. Please move on. And it seems like whenever they'd move on, then they'd somehow go back. So they'd move on. Then they'd ask de Blasio a question, and then he would attack Biden. And okay, Biden's name was called. So then it goes back to Biden, and then it just constantly goes back and forth. Speaking of which, Biden was overall a loser in this debate because they basically ganged up on him. And the problem with Biden, he has such a long history, he has so much baggage that people just kept attacking him. They got really frustrated because a lot of it is, you said so-and-so 50 years ago. I mean, oh my gosh. And then it was like, oh yeah, but 50 years ago I passed the Johnson-Fred bill or whatever, and then blah, blah, blah. This time that Harris attacked Biden like she did last time, it wasn't quite effective because I think before Biden was unprepared and he really didn't have an answer. He's like, oh, I'm being attacked. Oh, well, what do I do? Well, this time he is ready, so he would have an answer and attack her on something. So then it just became blah, 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 just back and forth. And after a while, I mean, speaking for myself, I have to imagine other people as well. Just, the eyes start rolling and it's like, just, oh my gosh, move on, change the subject, please. Where Biden was strong, his opening statement was strong. It's kind of funny because he goes, hey, look at all the diversity we have up on the stage right now. Yeah, good thing you weren't on the stage yesterday. There wasn't too much diversity there. So you got good being on the stage on the second night, where you actually had more of that diversity on the stage. He had a good closing statement as well, but in the middle, he just constantly defending himself, getting attacked. The biggest attack during the Obama administration, Obama was tough on immigration, and he deported a whole lot of people, which used to be something that Democrats and Republicans did, but now apparently deporting a lot of people is a bad thing. So he's attacked on that. And it's like, well, did you talk to Obama and said, this was a bad idea, deporting all these people? And he wouldn't answer the question because obviously the answer is no. He didn't have a problem with it. So instead he just kind of dodged. And obviously on that, he was really weak. Cory Booker, I'd say so-so. He was strongest when Biden was attacking him. So Booker goes after Biden on his prison record. Biden tries to go back, and Booker defended himself really well. And he said something like, you're jumping into the Kool-Aid and you don't even know what flavor it is. I don't know, something like that. And said, I'm backed up by the ACLU and I've got these achievements and in these recognitions, and you're just trying to change the subject because, once again, Biden has all this baggage. You could see all these past bills that he voted for. And these tough on crime bills, which were tougher on certain segments of the population, tougher on African Americans, tougher on people in poor neighborhoods, disproportionately affected them. And you voted for these legislations in the past. You can't escape that now. So I thought Booker did all right. Castro, I don't know. To me, he seems like anti-police. I mean, everybody believes that police need to be accountable. There's nothing worse than a bad cop. But he just seems to be overall anti-police, anti-law enforcement, not making it illegal for people to just cross our border, weak on illegal immigration. So I didn't think he was strong. De Blasio, I guess, didn't do so bad, but he's got such a horrible reputation and record in New York. So it seems like he's a failed mayor of New York that nobody likes. What are you doing on the stage trying to be president? Tulsi Gabbard, I believe, won this debate. Nobody saw it coming. She hit Kamala Harris. So Kamala Harris, attorney, prosecutor, tough. We know how she demolished Biden in the last debate, not so much this time. Tulsi Gabbard came after her. I don't think anybody saw this coming, saying, you imprisoned 1,500 people for marijuana, and then laughed about how you used it. Whoa, I think somebody tweeted, man, for anti-war, she sure firebombed Kamala Harris. I mean, that was just a wicked out of nowhere. I don't think anybody was expecting it. And Harris, once again, is tough. She's a prosecutor, but man, that missile came in. Oh, man, that hit pretty hard. I think she was very effective on the wars, and she served in the military. So, okay, Harris is tough. Prosecutor, Gabbard's tough too. Military tough. Served in Iraq and talked about how we were lied to, that Saddam had these weapons of mass destruction, and talking about the loss of blood and loss of wealth. And if all that wealth was invested here, we wouldn't have those situations like Flint, Michigan. So I thought she was very well. Christian Gillibrand, I guess, did okay, but I just don't think she has what it takes to really compete with the top tier. Kamala Harris, aside from that attack from Gabbard, I don't think had a really good night. It seems like a lot of times she spoke like she was a little nervous. She didn't seem to have the confidence she had in the first one. Jay Inslee is a big, so he's the biggest guy as far as climate change and fighting climate change. So he was pretty strong on that issue. Also, I think he's governor of Colorado, which he apparently has some pretty good accomplishments under his belt. I think he was pretty strong. Andrew Yang has been my favorite, but man, Tulsi Gabbard, I tell you, she's been really impressing me a lot the last few days. He definitely did better than last time. He got called on more, able to answer more, very strong on the healthcare issue. One of the very few. I mean, yesterday they actually had intelligent back and forth discussion on healthcare. Today, it was just a mess, and the moderators really failed. They just spent way too much time getting into the details, getting into the weeds and his policies, and people just didn't care anymore. Yang was the most effective as far as Medicare for all, because this debate is like, do we just do the government option, or, well, what about all these businesses option, business healthcare? And he's like, look, people are trying to start companies. You look at small businesses and you look at how much putting all this responsibility of healthcare on the businesses. They didn't go into business to deal with healthcare. They went into business to provide some service or some product. They want to employ people, and all this healthcare cost is stopping them from employing people or stopping them from having people have full-time hours. And that's something that Bernie Sanders didn't. Bernie Sanders gave a really good defense of the public option and getting rid of the private sector. This was very effective that even Bernie didn't bring up yesterday. The fact that this actually hurts, I think it's 70% of people are employed through small business, and putting all that responsibility and on a small business owner who wants to focus on their business. They want to focus on the service and products they're providing. And instead, they got to go through mountains of paperwork on insurance companies and offerings and have to deal with that. Imagine getting that burden off their shoulders, what that would do for small businesses and entrepreneurs. And then, of course, Andrew Yang was big on his $1,000 a month, how much that would help. The issue of inequality in pay, the gender gap came up, and he said, look, there's a lot of women who don't work, but they're taking care of kids. They're doing things that are very valuable, and right now our economy values them at zero. Well, they should be getting that $1,000 a month. The woman who's a waitress who has an abusive boss, or a woman in an abusive relationship, having that $1,000 a month, giving them more of that economic security, allows them to escape that situation. So he kind of addressed it that way. The place where I think Andrew Yang could have done a lot better was about climate change. He basically said, climate change, the United States produces 15% of the world's emissions, and it's pretty much already too late, but here's this $1,000 and good luck to you. It was kind of like that kind of answer, which was really disappointing, because he, on his website, he has a nuclear plan for investing in nuclear energy. We've had 2 debates, 20 people. In both debates, climate change has come up. Not once was the word nuclear used. That is, to me, inexcusable. It's unbelievable. That has to be part of the solution. He doesn't bring up nuclear. He doesn't bring up plant-based products. He doesn't bring up these machines that take carbon out of the air. And I thought that was a good opportunity. He was also called on about prison reform. And he mentioned, well, I talked to this prison guard, and he says it costs so much money to have people incarcerated. We should give them money to stay out of jail, which is also something that this freedom dividend does. But I also think, and he says, you know what, we need to make marijuana illegal and let everybody out of prison that was incarcerated for marijuana. That would have got him huge applause. So I think there's a couple times that he had these really short answers. Well, other people are going on and on and on. They're calling him, boom, 15-second answer. They go on to somebody else. And I know he wants to stay focused on the freedom dividend, but I think he could have, there's situations where he could have used more time and could have gotten some of these great points in. It was frustrating that, once again, they spent so much time in healthcare. They went to Tulsi Gabbard on a question about college and the debt, which is a big issue. And then they went right back to healthcare, and they didn't even cover it again. So that was frustrating, once again, that this was so poorly moderated, and they didn't cover every key subject in depth like they did yesterday. It was just frustrating. But once again, I think Biden comes out bruised. It was not Harris's best night. I think the winner was Tulsi Gabbard. I think Andrew Yang still did very well, especially on the public option for health care. The strongest answer, very effective there. But we'll see what the polls say, and we'll see what happens. This is Jim Wall. Thanks for watching. Until next time.